I woke up with a bit of a headache this morning, so I'm just waiting for the ibuprofen to kick in, and then it's time to pack up and get moving. I probably have another 4 or 5 days to get into Winston from here. This is a pretty remote section. It was 94 miles. It is minus 12 due to a fire-related relocation. There was a big fire out here back in the end of 22, I think. It set records, biggest fire in New Mexico. I was looking at it when I was coming southbound on the CDT. I was expecting fires on the north end of the CDT, not the south end of the CDT, but, it's hiking out west for you. I am somewhat of a stickler for the red line, but quite frankly, walking through an intense burn area versus not walking through a burn area, that's the one thing that gets me going, oh, okay, maybe I'll do that relocation. And I am also pretty set on Socorro after Winston. There was a Brett Tucker post on the Facebook group talking about why it was proposed, and it basically stays in the mountains longer, and it fixes an issue with not having to try and ford the Rio Grande, which this year I'm guessing would be a problem. And I can't really float it. I don't have an air mattress or anything. Not to mention the way I pop those, I'd probably get halfway through the Rio Grande and then just go down. So the fun thing there is that means I have a 114-mile food carry once I leave Winston. And when I leave Winston, I think that's also the big water carry. Somebody was mentioning like a 27-mile dry section. So yeah, that's going to be one of the fun ones. That'll probably be the longest carry for this entire trip. The good news is it does look like there may be lodging options at Winston. So that'll be kind of my plan. Get in there, try and time it so I just have an overnight plus a morning. Charge everything, shower, and maybe laundry, and then get moving. It was fun meeting people at Doc Campbell's. Talked to a handful of different folks. Some of them were biking the CDT. Most of them were hiking the CDT, and then there were a few other random folks. It was a bit more of a crowd than I generally prefer, and I hate seeing the signs up where you can see that people had kind of misbehaved. There actually is no longer a hiker box there. Per the far out comments, people started accusing them of basically stealing things out of the hiker box and selling it. When they were just trying to get rid of the trash in it, per them. Hiker boxes are basically where you can abandon any food or things you don't need, and then theoretically somebody else can grab them. The problem is they tend to accumulate a lot of trash because somebody will go, well, I have this like handful of trail mix. Well, I'll just put this in here. So they do get really, really messy. So I can totally see why they would need to prune it. And there is a subset of thru hikers who tend to show up to trail stops and they don't realize that, yes, the businesses make money off thru hikers, but they generally have more money off other customers. And sometimes there's a certain amount of entitlement that will lead to things disappearing. For example, you could camp at Triple Crown Outfitters for a year or two until people misbehaved and that got yanked. I was able to patch the front of my pants together with a little piece of bear cord I had in my 10 essential kit. So that's holding for at least the moment, and Jen may try and send one. Problem is it's going to be a couple of weeks till it gets out here. I do have shorts I can switch back into, but there's these big thorn plants out in New Mexico, which are basically as bad as cat's claw. Shoe-wise, the bottoms are failing. I'm just hoping to limp into Winston without them going, problematically apart. So I normally do the Columbia Via, but I mix in the Veranda Blonde every now and then. I don't know what it is with this particular one, though. It causes the water to really fizz up, and if I'm not careful and dump too much, it'll actually boil over and then get all over the stove. So I should be a little bit ahead of Sprouts and Colonel Mustard. They're leaving Doc Campbell's this morning. I don't know where Snapper is, though I assume she's like a day behind, and also Bear is back there. I know there's another couple a little further back that's hiking with a dog, assuming they're still on trail, and there's another couple a couple of days ahead of me called Veggie and Karma. Per the summit registers, per the trail registers I've been able to find. I do really enjoy sections where I can properly disperse camp, wander off, and it's not a place anybody's been before. Just find durable ground and less critter issues. Don't have to worry about anybody else coming by. Plus, it just feels better. If it seems like I get a later start the day after I leave town, there is actually a reason for that. It is true. Basically, it takes longer to edit the videos together. I really don't like shoving the camera in people's face. I'll get crowd shots here and there. But mostly when I'm in town, I'm, talking to people versus recording. So then I have to stitch it together, do voiceovers, and things like that take a bit more time. Since I do these videos 100% on my phone while on trail, I have to work with the limitations of the software available on the iPhone. And iMovie does really well for simple things. You try and get fancy, it takes more time. And any of the other software packages like LumaFusion or Adobe Rush or InShot all have other downsides. It feels like now that everybody has a camera / video camera in their pocket whenever they have their phone, people are a little more sensitive to being filmed these days. So if it's people I know, it's no big deal. And if it's a crowd, there's no big deal, but I don't like going up and like shoving it in people's faces. I remember there was a kerfluffle the year I was on the AT because some guy claimed he was taking videos or pictures of all the dogs on the trail. But there was a solo female hiker who was quite upset because she felt like he was filming her. My big goal with these videos is to have something to look back on and capture, what it was like out here. When years later I'm looking back and going, oh yeah, you remember I was on the Get and everything was all like milk chocolate and filter clogging. So if anything, the weakness is missing capturing some of the people. But again, I just try and be respectful. Not everybody wants to be on the internet. I don't mind, of course. I actually kind of enjoy making a scrapbook when I appear in random other people's social media when I see the posts. I do enjoy the wild sections, the less traveled sections, but I was talking to Colonel Mustard yesterday and we were both commenting how it does just feel good to be on trail and be able to just hike and get miles and not constantly be ripping stuff on thorns or having to check the map every 2 minutes. I'm kind of curious if there's any significance to the high wire on some of these gates. It exists enough where it's not like a one-off thing. It does make it easier to find the gates. Sometimes in the middle of these fields they kind of blend in or don't exist, and then you get to climb barbed wire. Get yourself together. Well, I did a long stretch of the west fork of the Gila, and then I did a small stretch of the middle fork, and now welcome to the east fork. My best guess, looking at the map ahead, is I've got 2-ish days of getting my feet wet constantly, and then I may be hurting for water for a while. And there goes my dry feet for the day. The channel's actually surprisingly deep in a couple of places. And now this is Diamond Creek. So it looks like I follow the river till I get to a private ranch, do another one of those walk around the private property cross-country things, and then come back to this creek for a while to get around the worst of it. Okay, just passed out of the Gila wilderness officially. Okay, stop me if you heard this one. I'm in a canyon. I'm going to continue up the canyon, but there is a private ranch blocking the canyon. So I get to go up here. So I was just about to take a break in the shade and I happened to notice somebody moving Went over expecting them to be get hikers, but no, just two guys in old school heavy gear out here backpacking for a couple of days. So in typical fashion, I just lost 30 plus minutes jawing with those guys. This is also where the fire relocation starts. So I'm not going to get spared the burn area completely. I'm just going to avoid part of the high intensity burn area, because that basically burns it down into ash and rocks. This trail's actually seen a trail maintenance effort. So unfortunately, a lot of the trail or old road through here is sand and mixed with ash. Makes for slow going. It's actually nicer when it's kind of wet. I keep coming back to the rocks when I see something that looks like it might be a cave, but nothing so awesome. Cool rock though. So I'm about halfway through this canyon. Going's been kind of varied. Sometimes it's that deep sandy ash, and sometimes like this it's not too bad. Place is just overrun with strawberries. Looks like I'm here at the wrong time. $7:20. I'm basically on the lookout for the first non-burned campsite, or at least one that's open enough where I don't have to worry about rockfall or trees down. I'm really wishing I had taken a layer that shows how extensive burns were. There's no way I'm getting out of this burn area, it looks like. This spot seems relatively good. It's got trees with at least a little bit of leaves around it. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna stay here. 21 miles and change, I'm tired. So if last night was one of my favorite types of camping, this is probably one of my least favorite. I don't like the risk of being around trees that can fall, but not much option here. I was more worried about rockfall, actually. Last couple of options I found were a little close, and it looks like there's fresh fall, so this will work for one night. There's also more bear tracks than people tracks back here. And I just found a huge pile of scat right by the tent, but he probably moved off. It's fine. Home sweet home. So you can tell I was scrimping at that last stop. This is fine, but it's expensive and it takes 15 freaking minutes to make.